The scandalous and shocking facts about the founding of Taiwan. The history of Taiwan is a compelling tapestry woven with moments of innovation, cultural fusion, and significant conflict. Situated off the southeastern coast of China, Taiwan's strategic position has made it a focal point of regional power struggles, influencing its complex relationship with China. This video highlights 11 scandalous and intriguing facts about Taiwan's founding and its ongoing conflict with China, each revealing the depths of historical tensions and the island's unique status in the world today. Fact number 1. The Forgotten Occupation. Taiwan, then known as Formosa, was first colonized by the Dutch East India Company in 1624, a pivotal era that lasted until 1662. The Dutch administration was headquartered in Fort Zeelandia, built on the islet of Taiwan, which now corresponds to modern-day Tainan. This period is critical for understanding the early European influence on Taiwan. The Dutch imposed a colonial regime that exploited the island's resources such as deer hide, sugar, and rice, which were vital to their trade networks in Asia. They also introduced a system of taxation and brought in Chinese laborers to cultivate the land, significantly increasing the Han Chinese population in Taiwan. Additionally, the Dutch undertook the Christianization of the indigenous populations, an effort that met with limited success but had long-lasting cultural impacts. Their governance laid the groundwork for the modernization of agricultural practices and set a precedent for future foreign influence on the island. Number 2. The Pirates' Haven. Zheng Qinggong, better known as Koxinga, took control of Taiwan in 1662 after a 9-month siege against the Dutch at Fort Zeelandia. Born to a Japanese mother and a Chinese pirate-turned-merchant father, Koxinga pledged allegiance to the fading Qing Dynasty, opposing the rising Qing. As the Qing forces advanced through mainland China, Koxinga retreated to Taiwan to establish a bastion for Ming loyalism. His governance, although brief until his death in 1662, was marked by significant military and administrative developments. He initiated extensive land distribution to his soldiers, reorganized the island's administrative structure into 3 counties, and reinforced coastal defenses. Koxinga's rule fundamentally transformed Taiwan's demographic makeup and laid the foundations for Han Chinese predominance in the region's cultural and social landscape. Number 3. Unintended consequences. The Musha Incident, also known as the Wuxia Rebellion, occurred in 1930 and stands as one of the most violent uprisings against Japanese colonial rule in Taiwan. On October 27, 1930, the Seediq tribe, one of Taiwan's indigenous groups, launched a surprise attack against Japanese officials and civilians during a sports event in Musha, modern-day Wuxia, resulting in the death of over 134 Japanese. The rebellion was a direct response to the oppressive and discriminatory practices of the Japanese colonial government, which included forced labor, cultural assimilation policies, and severe restrictions on the lives of the indigenous people. The Japanese retaliation was swift and brutal, employing military force that led to the deaths of over 600 Seediq in the ensuing suppression. This rebellion highlighted the severe cultural clashes and the deep-seated resistance among Taiwan's indigenous populations against colonial domination, a significant chapter in Taiwan's complex history of resistance against foreign rule. Number 4. The 228 Massacre. The 228 incident began on February 28, 1947, when a confrontation between a Taiwanese cigarette vendor and a Monopoly Bureau agent in Taipei escalated into widespread unrest. This incident tapped into the deep-seated resentment against the Kuomintang (KMT) government's corrupt and oppressive rule post-World War II. The initial public response to the altercation quickly escalated, leading to severe clashes. The KMT's military response was swift and brutal, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 5,000 to 28,000 people, many of whom were intellectuals and community leaders. This tragic event led to the imposition of martial law, which lasted until 1987 and encompassed the period known as the White Terror, marked by widespread political repression. The government later recognized this incident, with President Lee Teng-hui issuing a formal apology in 1995 and establishing February 28 as a day of remembrance. Number 5. A Cold War foothold. During the Cold War, particularly after the Korean War broke out in 1950, Taiwan assumed a critical strategic importance to the United States as a bulwark against communist expansion in Asia. The U.S. established a military advisory presence on the island as part of the Mutual Defense Treaty signed between the United States and the Republic of China, Taiwan, in 1954. This agreement formally aligned Taiwan with the West against the Communist bloc, paving the way for significant military and economic support, including substantial military aid and direct investment. U.S. military presence peaked with the establishment of extensive air and naval bases, which were instrumental during the Vietnam War for logistical support. This U.S. commitment helped stabilize Taiwan's government under the Kuomintang, KMT, and was crucial in transforming the island into a formidable outpost against the spread of communism in East Asia. Number 6. The Green Island Horror. Green Island, a remote location off the eastern coast of Taiwan, became synonymous with the horrors of political repression during the White Terror period. Starting from the late 1940s, especially after the 228 incident in 1947, the island was used to detain, torture, and re-educate political prisoners. The infamous Green Island Reform and Re-Education Prison was established in 1951 and operated until 1987. It housed over 2,000 prisoners at its peak, many of whom were intellectuals, activists, and those suspected of communist ties or critical of the KMT regime. The conditions were notoriously brutal, with numerous reports of human rights violations. The prison not only aimed to punish but also to break the spirits and ideology of its inmates, often involving forced labor in harsh conditions. The stories of resilience and suffering from Green Island remain a poignant chapter in Taiwan's struggle for democracy and human rights. Number 7. Controversial Nuclear Weapons Program. During the height of the Cold War tensions in the 1970s and 1980s, Taiwan undertook a covert nuclear weapons program under the codename Chungshan Project. The aim was to develop nuclear weapons as an ultimate guarantor of the island's security against potential aggression from the People's Republic of China. This program was initiated despite Taiwan being a signatory to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons in 1970. U.S. intelligence detected the program in the mid-1970s, leading to significant diplomatic tensions between Taiwan and its principal ally, the United States. Under pressure, Taiwan agreed to dismantle the program during the 1980s, primarily due to direct interventions by the U.S., which included threats of cutting off diplomatic and military support. The cessation of the program was overseen by international observers, but the episode remains a controversial aspect of Taiwan's defense history, illustrating the lengths to which it went to secure its sovereignty against perceived existential threats. Number 8. The Missile Crisis. The 1996 Taiwan Strait crisis was a significant flashpoint in cross-strait relations. It occurred when China conducted a series of missile tests and military exercises in the waters surrounding Taiwan from March 8 to March 15, 1996. This show of force by China was intended as a direct response to the first direct presidential elections held in Taiwan, perceived by Beijing as a move toward formal independence. The missiles landed in the vicinity of Taiwan's major ports, including Keelung and Kaohsiung, effectively simulating a blockade. This crisis prompted a stern response from the United States, which deployed 2 aircraft carrier battle groups to the region, the USS Nimitz and the USS Independence, to monitor the situation and affirm its commitment to Taiwan's defense under the terms of the Taiwan Relations Act. The crisis eventually de-escalated, but it left a lasting impact on Taiwan's defense policies and its relations with both China and the international community. Number 9. The Economic Miracle. Taiwan's economic transformation from the 1960s to the 1990s is often hailed as the Taiwan Miracle. This period was marked by an average annual economic growth rate of about 8% to 10% and a dramatic increase in industrial output and exports. The foundations of this economic boom were laid by land reforms in the early 1950s, which democratized wealth and boosted agricultural productivity. This was followed by a strategic shift to labor-intensive exports in the 1960s and then to technology and capital-intensive industries, like electronics and petrochemicals, in the 1980s. Key milestones include the development of the Hsinchu Science Park in 1980, which became a hub for high-tech industries. The government's focus on education also played a crucial role, leading to a well-educated workforce adept in engineering and other technical fields, making Taiwan a global leader in semiconductor manufacturing and information technology. Number 10. The diplomatic shuffle. In 1971, a pivotal shift occurred when the United Nations General Assembly passed Resolution 2758, which recognized the People's Republic of China, PRC, as the only legitimate representative of China to the United Nations and expelled the representatives of Chiang Kai-shek, representing the Republic of China, ROC, based in Taiwan, from the UN. This resolution not only altered Taiwan's status on the global stage but also marked the beginning of its international diplomatic isolation. As countries increasingly recognized the PRC to engage with China's growing economic and political influence, Taiwan saw a significant reduction in the number of countries that officially recognized it as a sovereign state. However, Taiwan has maintained informal international relationships and participates in international organizations under various names that do not challenge the One China policy directly. Number 11. The current conflict. The ongoing conflict between Taiwan and China centers on the One China policy, a cornerstone of the PRC's foreign policy, which insists that there is only one sovereign state under the name China, encompassing both mainland China and Taiwan. Beijing views Taiwan as a renegade province that must be reintegrated with the mainland, potentially by force if peaceful reunification efforts fail. Recent years have seen a significant rise in tensions, with China increasing both diplomatic pressure and military posturing around Taiwan. For instance, frequent incursions by Chinese warplanes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone have become more common since 2020. Taiwan, under President Tsai Ing-wen, has pursued a policy of strengthening its own defense capabilities while seeking to enhance international partnerships and participation in global forums, despite Chinese objections. This tension underscores the complex and precarious nature of cross-strait relations in the context of regional security and international diplomacy.